decision was made in September 2022. So like you said, people shouldn't just please spontaneously pick up their bag and drive such a distance. A lot of planning, almost a year of planning went into it in terms of the car choice, modification, planning the route, all of that. So I think it was like, okay, I'm going to do this, but it took a few months of preparation to get to this point.
Okay. What is the distance in miles or kilometers between London and Lagos?
It depends on what route you take. Some people stick to the coast, some people go through Mali, it really depends on it. If you put in Google directly, it says about, I'd say 3,000 or something miles, but I've driven more than 10,000 because even within the country, I explored different places. I wasn't just going through a straight line.
Okay, of course.
So that obviously, it really varies.
Aha. Okay, so you set off from London on what date?
On the 23rd of January. It was my niece's birthday, so I was like, I wanted a milestone celebration.
I see.
And I just made my way. So it's been over 2 months I've been on the road.
Okay. And what did your friends and family think when you said, guys, I'm going to go for a long drive? And they're thinking, oh, maybe from London to maybe you're driving to Cambridge, that's a long drive. Or going up north to Manchester, that's a long enough drive. And then you said, no, that this drive is taking me to West Africa. What was the reaction of your friends and family?
I remember I told one particular person, she was like Lagos in Portugal? Like, which Lagos are we talking about exactly? But one thing to bear in mind is that travel is not a new thing to me. I've traveled to over 80 plus countries at this point. So traveling is something I've done, and my family know that's a big part of me and something I love to do, and adventure travel is a big thing. I've also, done quite a few different drives. This is the biggest I've done in terms of crossing different continents. So I've done like within Namibia, solo drive 4,000 kilometers. I've driven from, from London to Lake Como, which is in Italy. So there've been quite a few, explore, like tester drive. That's again another thing. I didn't just jump on the road. I did like mini versions or mini practice as well. But honestly, I have the most amazing family, amazing support system that have just constantly cheered me on. Never had my parents be like, oh, you cannot do this, then It's always been, we support you, we love you. If something that you desire, go for it. And I think that's really, boosted my confidence and just my excitement for adventure.
That's great. A drive through Namibia, and they have some great terrain. So you drove through the desert.
Oh my gosh.
I've never seen anything like it. I wouldn't be the driver, but
you'll be the passenger princess.
Be the passenger princess. But we took a drive in the Namib desert. It was something else. So that's quite the landscape to drive through. Then you decide, okay, so now you've done a few of these. You're going to drive from London to Lagos. You set off on the 23rd of January. What was it like in Europe? Was that fairly smooth? What is the route like? Where did you go through?
So I started the journey from the UK, like you said, to cross the English channels into France, Spain, again cross using a ferry into Morocco, and then just kept making my way. So Mauritania, then crossed into Senegal, then the Gambia, then crossed into Senegal again, then crossed into, I just kept going all the way, So I think it was just important for me to stick to the coast. At one point I had, plans to go into Mali and stuff like that, but I just was like, you know what, I'd rather spend some more time. Again, reminding people that this was not just a drive. I wanted to immerse myself, talk to people, eat the food, like really enjoy the drive too as well, because it's a travel experience. So it wasn't just, Pelumi driving. That was quite interesting.
I was wondering, was this in a bid to raise money for some type of project or charity? This is just your passion that we're watching.
Me. It's honestly just a woman with a really big vision of what people think women can do, especially as Black solo female traveler. Like what limitation? I remember announcing the news and it was very much, you cannot do this, and I'm like, watching.
That was the feedback you got.
Oh yeah, of lots of naysayers, like especially people that don't know me, my background history, something like that. It's like, who sent you? And I'm like, God sent me. I think very much just having that audacious spirit and showcasing our continent, because a lot of the time traditional media don't do that, and it's like, if we want to tell our stories, we need to start telling it for ourselves.
That's right.
If we want the narrative to be correct. So it was just very important for me to just kind of showcase it. So on social media, it's just been an amazing explosion of followers and people just really being, and that's translated to in life persons. We had like a meet and greet yesterday, and
I saw clips and videos. I was like,
amazing.
Okay, Pelumi, you star. Meet and greet. Okay.
It was so good. It was so
Pelumi,
good.
you have arrived. You have arrived. Let me rope in Kosi very quickly, and then I do want to talk about solo traveling as a Black woman, because that's something that you have to take into consideration amongst other things, as if we don't have enough woes in our lives. But again, Kosi Dagbe is on the line. Kosi, do you know anybody that's driven such a long distance? Pelumi's driven all the way from London. She's in Accra at the moment. Hello, Kosi. Can you hear us?
Helen,
yes.
First of all, a very big congratulations to. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. We're all ears.
Okay. A very big congratulations to Salome for embarking on this adventure. Yes, of course, people have done this, but I think few people for this kind of this.
Okay, we're having a few challenges with Kosi's line. We'll try and get him to reposition, and then we'll reconnect with him. He's the founder and CEO of the iGarage, and he'll be telling us what we need to be thinking about if you're already halfway packing, you're getting into your car because you want to drive, I don't know, to China or something. He'll let us know what to think about. But solo traveling as a black woman, I remember the first ever time I decided to solo travel on my own, I went online and I went least racist places for black women to travel to. And it's a shame that I even had to consider some of those things before I set off. Is that something that you were worried about, how you would be treated in certain parts of wherever it is that you were going in Europe, coming down onto the continent? Was that in contemplation?
I think in my early travel days, it was very much something I was worried about how will I be treated and things like that. But I think quickly discovered that, you just got to be audacious and go to these places. I was very big on promoting Eastern Europe, which is where a lot of people is like, as black, they're not going to go there. But I think also sometimes, yes, there's racism, but there's also curiosity, when people are touching your hair or doing something, is mostly sometimes out of curiosity. They haven't seen people that look like us. So I think there's definitely that news, trying to know what is the thing, what's the intention behind it. But traveling, this one I was quite excited because I was exploring my continent and I knew there would be that automatic or immediate embrace. I think the only place I was quite concerned was Mauritania. They only abolished, slavery as of 2007, which is pretty recent. So I was just like, how would they treat a black woman and all of that stuff? So my experience there was quite positive.
Okay.
So that was just really nice to just, put out there that if you are thinking about this place, it is, safe. At least I felt safe being solo. But yeah, there's definitely things to consider. There was like safety tools I had to put in place, just like driving with my windows up, making sure my car door was locked at all points, having like an air tag on my car keys so my family could know my location at all point in time. So you just have to put all these things and make sure you are safe out there.
Okay. Well, Mr. Dagbe is back on Zoom with us, and he was talking to us about this type of journey and how complex it can be. But Kosi, for anybody that's thinking about long distance driving, long distance travel in a vehicle, what is the first and foremost thing that they should be thinking about?
I think the first thing to think about in terms of vehicle is you have to type and the condition of vehicle you are going to use to embark on that kind of journey. You don't just get up and pick any vehicle. So because you need to consider the vehicle in terms of availability and reliability. The vehicle is fit for purpose. The primary goal is the vehicle should be able to take you from one point to the other point. That's where you are moving from to the end of your trip. So, but if something happens and the vehicle has to leave you in the middle of the road or in the middle of the trip, then the goal might not have been achieved. So the first thing is, what kind of vehicle am I going to use? And what's the condition of the vehicle at the time of embarking on the trip? So I think that's the first thing to be concerned about.
What sort of vehicle would you recommend? Or is it really just about the performance of said vehicle? Would you say, well, it has to be a 4-wheel drive, a big car? What are the specifications?
This is what makes Salome's journey very special and unique. She chose to use a very small vehicle. Normally, because of the different terrains you'll be driving through, you may want to at least have a vehicle that is fit to go through these different terrains. So ideally, you want to go for a 4-wheel drive, an off-road vehicle, so that maybe when you get into the desert and all those places, you won't be found wanting. So ideally, this is not to make an advert for anybody or any kind of vehicle.
Of course.
I will kind of recommend a vehicle that is off-road, a vehicle that is robust, so that you don't get caught up in any situation. I wouldn't go for the small vehicle or the saloon kind of vehicle, but Pelumi is proven as otherwise. So congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, Pelumi, what informed your choice to take this is your own vehicle. This is the car that you've always used.
I've had that for 5 years.
For 5 years. What informed your choice to use that car? Were you worried? Did people advocate that you find a bigger vehicle, something more sturdy? Why did you decide to not do that?
This trip was going to be very expensive on its own, you know, from fuel cost, accommodation to, you know, feeding 3 months, you know, of work, all of that stuff. So buying a whole new vehicle was just going to be either I pause the trip and, you know, wait for another year, but you know how life is. Other things could step into place.
That's right.
It's almost like there's a window right now. I want to do this right now, and this is what I have. I think I'm very big on making use of what you have. As a content creator, you can use your phone instead of a professional camera like you. I'm just big on making use of the things you have. Yes, I did research in terms of like the routes. Can this car really hold by, you know, for like as Mr. Charles mentioned, you know, when I was even driving, I chose some certain route based on the car. You know, I wasn't going to go into desert and be doing off-riding and, you know, doing jumping because I know my car will get stuck. So just deciding and things like that, I'm informing yourself. But really the messaging was make use of what you have. And she's been, her name is Lumi. She's been doing very well.
Okay, the car is called Lumi. Okay, so Lumi and Pelumi have been on this journey. What have been some of the most memorable moments as you've driven from, you know, the UK up until this point?
So many amazing memories. So many, you know, from crossing into Morocco and just, you know, breaking down in tears because like, wow, like I've actually made it to a new continent. You know, it's just full of emotions to like, you know, growing the online family to such a, like, it didn't feel like a solo drive. So people are really invested in this. So on the journey itself, meeting really kind people that went out of their ways, like just showcasing humanity that you don't see on social media or like on traditional media, to, you know, eating amazing food in different places, learning new languages, just interacting with the locals. I say, you know, the places you visit are amazing, but really the people that make the place.
That's right.
Really enjoying their stories, understanding we are more similar than different. The memories have been incredible.
What about when you got to the various borders? Because I've been Johnny, you see that laugh that just came. Because I've been following on the socials, and I know that at certain borders, it's not been the easiest time. Hey, Charlie. I mean, so what is it like? You get to the border, and what is all the fuss about? Because I'm sure you have the right paperwork.
Absolutely.
You've done your research. You've been planning for months, you know, ahead of time. What would be the biggest challenge whenever there was some type of confusion?
One thing I wanted to check was that a black solo traveler can explore her continent without connection, without knowing people, you know, but it seems that's not the case. It seems you need to know people. You need to have contacted your embassy. It was so foreign for me because I've traveled intensively and I've never needed to contact my embassy before going to these places. So, you know, getting to the border is a mindset boggling, like, you know, yes, there was the issue with the car in terms of it being right hand in some places. So the law in, like, for example, Liberia says that, you know, they don't allow right hand vehicle. But it's also a bylaw that says if you're transiting, because what do they expect you to do? Go back to where you're coming from. As long as you're not planning to stay in the city or stay in the country for, you know, they can give you certain days, like, you know, you have to leave in 24 hours or 1 week. You're allowed to go through, but people know just the one side of the law and not the other. So you're just having to prove and have to contact the embassy and contact this and contact that person before they let you go. Liberia had to sleep there for 2 nights. Sierra Leone had issues there. Even at your Ghana border. We had issues.
Drag us. Feel free. You had some issues when you got here.
When I got here,
what was the problem?
The problem was that there's a particular document called a Canada Passage. And it basically means that you have to pay a certain amount as a deposit to show that you're not intending to sell your vehicle here. So I understand the law, you know, and all of that. I did not have that piece of document. So when I got there, usually within ECOWAS and stuff like that, they allow laissez-passer. That's what I use for most of the other countries. So I got here and I was like, okay, you know, this is the law and blah, blah, blah. But there's an issue in terms of like my card payments. I have a limit per day. So it's like, what are we going to do about this? I think more of what I want was like the nuisance and the payment is $500 is what they were asking for to create this transit document. Number one, I think that's ridiculously expensive.
$500?
$500 US dollars. It was like, why am I paying this much to come and visit your country?
Oh.
You know, so that's the first thing that kind of ticked me up. I'm like, okay, the law is the law. And I think what is even more bothersome is that it was only in a certain border. So you have various borders, but it was only in the Ilubo border. So it's like, why is one border having a different route to another border?
Okay.
So having those, you know, differences in information and stuff like that. But more importantly, it's like, okay, I want to pay this $500 because I actually want to go into your country and I do want to see it. Why is it then taking me another 6-7 hours for you to produce a piece of document? Because you don't have electricity. I'm like, you're charging $500 US. You can have generator, like, please. Hey.
Oh my
So I'm really dragging. I'm so sorry. But
So how many days have you now been in Accra for?
it's been 3 days.
3 days. $500 well spent? Okay, let me bring in Kosi Dagbe again into the conversation. Let's talk about cars now. So, Kosi, now we're talking about going on the journey. As a driver, if you're thinking about going on such a long expedition, maybe not as long as Pelumi's, what are some of the extra things that you should be thinking about taking with you? So I'm talking about things like oil, water. What should you be thinking about? Car maintenance in case you break down, everything that you could possibly contemplate. Tell us what we should be packing along with us.
All right, thank you. So I think we've spoken about you have to know the condition of your vehicle. Even before you start off the journey, ensure what mileage your vehicle is, because I know that total mileage you are going to cover. Obviously, the first thing to do is to kind of do a maintenance, the first maintenance for the vehicle. Then we call this the road survival tools. These are basic things that must be in the vehicle to ensure that if you are caught up in an unlikely situation, either you yourself can help yourself or somebody can help you. Sometimes you have help, but then the tools are not there to ensure that this help is received as quickly as possible. So we all have electronic vehicles now. So one of the things I normally would say is make sure you have the basic, the simplest diagnostic tool that can, these things are customized to most vehicles now. So once you know your vehicle, you know that this particular tool will be good for your vehicle, because you don't need to go and buy a universal tool that will be expensive. The goal here is to be able to achieve this trip with the minimal or lowest cost. So don't go and buy any tool that is quite expensive. You can have basic ones that will just work for your vehicle as good as possible. Once you have this tool, you also need to have the mechanic toolbox, very important, so that in the middle of the road, in the middle of the trip, you will be able to do certain things yourself. I want to understand that, like any other person who tries to embark on this trip, will know her vehicle, will know his vehicle, will be able to at least know some basic mechanical things to do on the vehicle. Obviously, she said it's a vehicle she's driven for about 5 years.
That's right.
So if you have driven a particular vehicle for 5 years, it just stands to reason that you know this vehicle very well. You know where and how, or whenever something can happen and how to fix that. So you need your mechanic tools, a universal mechanic tool that will contain the spanners, the screwdrivers, hammer, the basic.
The basic things.
We do not expect that you run out of battery in the middle of the road, but anything can happen. So you also need your jumper tool in it. Obviously, having traveled around myself, one of the things you also need is, I know she might be using a satellite phone. This is not related to vehicle in a way, but if you have to break down, and for instance, she has a basic tool and everything, and she has to contact somebody remotely or somebody like me remotely to maybe give one or two advice. Oh, this is something I've pulled out in error codes. Can you help me look at it? We need a satellite phone to be able to, even though it's not a tool to be able to use to maybe service or do a maintenance on a vehicle. It helps in communicating with remote support. So you need that. You need the So I'll combine this with the basic spare parts as well. Covering this kind of distance means that the vehicle might have kind of exhausted its servicing duration in the middle of the trip. For instance, if you are doing about 7,000 kilometers or let's say 5,000 plus miles, the vehicle might have gone through or might have reached the next servicing distance. So basic tools basic, you need your oil, you need your brake pads, you need fan belts can mess you up on the way sometimes. So you need those things. So when you normally, what our advice is, you need to have your maintenance schedule handy before you embark on this journey. So in that maintenance schedule, you would have seen that, okay, the next 5,000 or the next 10,000 kilometers, you needed to do A, B, C, and D.
Right.
So whatever will be required for such a vehicle, you need to have those things handy.
Right.
Because I don't want to just go straight away and mention, okay, you need brake pads,
of course. Because it's unique to each vehicle, isn't it? Because as you say, you'd be looking at that maintenance schedule, and if you don't need, for example, certain things, you don't overburden yourself by carrying them with you. But Palumi was nodding along with what you were saying, Kosi. So I'll find out if these are things that you incorporated, because you were doing your research and your prep way ahead of time. So did you have a maintenance schedule? Talk to us about connectivity, how you made sure that you were able to reach somebody in the event of an emergency.
So before I set off, I actually took a half-day's course in a mechanic, because in the UK I had like insurance or roadside breakdown where I just called a number and if I had a flat, they come and fix it. So I knew that might not be available. So I need to know how to fix my tire, how to check my oil, how to check the water. So just learning the basic of my car and functionality, and that I think is absolutely essential. Another rule I put in place is before I left any country. So if I'm leaving Europe, if I'm in Spain or Morocco or Mauritania, I make sure that I went to a mechanic and they got a professional just look over it.
Okay.
So just like a mini check. It's not a full service, anything, but just like, is everything okay? Yes, I've gone to, like a half-day course, but you're the professional. You can pick up something,
Okay.
And I think that familiarity of me knowing my car, because buying a second-hand car was also an option, but I was like, I'm not familiar with this car. If it's making a funny noise, I might just think it's part of the vehicle.
Okay.
But if my car starts making a noise or sounds different, I am very well. Familiar with it. So that was quite important. But also packing, like, the essential. I had the spare tire, for example. I had the gallon for petrol if it ran out. I had tools to just if I need to tighten things. So those skills were very, very important.
Very impressive that you said you took that course to know exactly what to do in certain instances. We were expecting you sometime last week and then you couldn't make it, so I was thinking, okay, well, what's going on? I go on the socials and then you've shared a very worrying picture of a very damaged Lumi. Talk to us. What happened? Where did it happen?
Okay, so this happened in Ivory Coast. Again, border issues, got to the border at 10, from bribery to pay us this, pay us that, delayed till 7 p.m., forced to drive.
So you arrived at 10 a.m.? 10
a.m.
Border issues kept you there till 7 p.m.?
Till 7 p.m. I did not. Normally, it's dark. I would stay around that area, but I didn't feel safe. So I was like, let me just drive towards where I've researched, where I have people waiting for me. So I got on the road, started going. And then there was a parked truck. It did not have, again, one of the tools you should have is like a triangle, a hazard light to let people know that you've broken down, this is a hazard. None of that was there. And it happened suddenly. I just collided into the truck.
Okay, so you were driving just on the road?
On the road.
And then you went into the truck.
Yes.
My goodness.
So that's what happened. It was miraculous that I was alive. The airbags got dispersed and people, my aunt came going, the car door wasn't up, so it was really bad, like it was a really bad crash. But yeah, I just crawled out passenger seats, and the villages called for like police and ambulance and fire trucks and everything just to help with the situation.
You would have been shaken up at that point.
Very much shaken up, very, very much, because it's just when you're just driving, and I've been an extremely safe driver, just making sure it's like even like turn off the music sometimes, so I'm like fully focused, like I'm not on the phone, I'm not it just happened Like even the police over there were like, do you want to press charges on the truck driver? Because we see that it was just ridiculous.
Yes.
But I was just like, honestly, I shouldn't have been on the road at that point.
Yeah.
I think, the borders, they need to understand that their actions have ripple effects. When you're delayed and, you're just like, oh, I'm just getting money from, no, you're costing them probably their life.
That's right.
So that is the frustration of something traveling within our continent.
What did you think? Well, at this point, I've made it far enough. Lumi is damaged. Well, I'm unscathed. Let me take this as a sign and do a U-turn. But no, in subsequent posts, I see somebody's hammering Lumi's side. You said, listen, I am going to Lagos. Come hell or high water. Is she back on the road? She's been fixed.
She's been fixed.
You're going to get a lot of money if you auction Lumi off after this. Okay?
No way. She's my baby.
You're
I'm
not
keeping
going
her
to sell
forever.
her. Let me bring Kosi in again. And if you're watching us on Facebook on 3FM 92.7, you see the extent of the damage there, to the point where Pelumi had to literally crawl out of the passenger side. Were you thinking it could have gone really, really bad?
It could have gone really, really, and it's just thank God that I wasn't like over speeding. Thank God that the truck wasn't carrying something that punches things,
or maybe something explosive.
Something explosive. Thank God that it was just God. Thank God, it was just. Yeah.
Pelumi, you were meant to drive from London to Lagos. Let's bring Kosi in very quickly here and talk about what to do if you find yourself in an emergency as you embark on a long journey. Kosi, what do you do? Oh, apologies. We'll try and get him back up on Zoom. I believe we've lost him. Okay, so then how long did it take to get the car back up and running? And what was the fear at that time as far as the repairs were concerned?
So there was definitely conversation about getting a new car, again because I wasn't going at fast speed, the engine itself wasn't damaged.
It was fine.
It wasn't knocked out.
It was the housing.
It was the housing, the shelling and stuff, and the front tires and stuff. Where it had the most impact.
Okay.
The windscreen had to be replaced, all of that stuff. But it was very much, we started this journey. I have, like I said, strong connection to my car. We've been doing this journey. I wanted us to finish it at the end.
Kosi, what do you do if you find yourself in a situation like this? You're solo traveling and you are in an accident like Pelumi was in? Hello, Kosi. If you're able to hear us, unmute for us. What do you do in an emergency like this? Okay, maybe he's not able to hear us at this point. We'll come back to Pelumi. So the car was fixed. Was it expensive to get it back on the road?
It wasn't the cheapest, but there was the big goal of wanting to get to Lagos. So it was an investment I needed to go. Hopefully with my insurance, I'm able to maybe get a compensation, but that will take months of proving that whose fault is what, all of that. So I have the police reports and all of that important. So I think reporting to the police, having the police there, having the fire, just making sure that my stuff was there, because I live in my car. That's another thing I don't think I mentioned. Okay. So I converted Lumi to have like a bed and things like that.
I see.
So there was definitely, all my stuff, all my valuables were in there.
Did you bring her today?
I didn't. So the thing, one of the rules of having this $500 transit is that I'm not allowed to actually drive across the city. I'm meant to just be going through. So I'm allowed to park in a particular ignorant point.
Okay.
But yeah, she's good.
She's good. And then when do you ultimately move on to Lagos? When do you finally drive off to
In
Lagos?
a couple of days. I want to spend my $100. My $500.
Because we charged you a hefty fee to
I want
here.
to enjoy Ghana.
Listen, enjoy Ghana. What have you seen so far? You've been in the city.
I've been in the city.
Any plans to go out of the city?
We'll see. There's a lot of this kind of like media interviews and stuff like that,
Yes.
but just connecting with friends, trying the food and all of that.
Right.
We might have a debate of jollof rice, but let's
No,
not go there.
don't do that. Pelumi, save your energy. You want to get to Lagos very strong. But time check, it is some 35 minutes past the hour 8. We're still live here on 3FM Sunrise. On 3FM 92.7, we're speaking with Pelumi Nubi, travel content creator, crazy lady. She's driven all the way from London in the United Kingdom. She's here in Accra. She'll be making her way to Lagos in a couple of days. Kosi Dagbe is the founder and CEO of iGarage, and he's on the line with us still. And Kosi, I wanted to find out, what does one do if they've been traveling solo, or in fact just traveling in a vehicle, and they have the kind of accident or encounter that Pelumi had? What do you do?
So I think this kind of trip, as part of your journey management, you need to, know your routes, know the countries you'll be going through. I think you just have to go one step further to identify or have the numbers of some good garages or mechanic shops, recoveries along the route. Let's say you're getting into Ghana. If you Google garages in Ghana, something like maybe the iGarage pops up, then you get their numbers. So throughout your stay in Ghana, in case of anything or you need help, you have to call these numbers. So you do that for Togo, you do that for Nigeria, so that you don't break down in the middle of the road or you experience what, obviously this was a bad accident. So
that's right.
The villagers will come around to help you. The city authorities, the police, the fire service will come around. But if you just break down, let's say a minor breakdown in the middle of nowhere, you're not going to get the police, you're not going to get the fire service giving you that kind of response. So you need to go a step further to have numbers handy, so that when you break down, if it's something that can be fixed over there, yes, it gets fixed. But if you need a recovery track, because you already have these numbers, I would have also, or I would also advise, even by the time you make contacts into Ghana or those countries, just like the same way you inform the embassy, you get your mechanic, I am in Ghana now. So it's throughout your stay in Ghana, throughout your stay in my these mechanics are on standby.
Sure.
And knowing that, okay, in case of an emergency, they need to respond. It shouldn't be that maybe 12 midnight, 1 a.m. before you are calling somebody with an unknown number and the person doesn't know who is calling.
Absolutely important. So prior preparation with that.
To have these numbers in hand.
I think that's a great tip, Kosi, especially about having some emergency numbers. Like you said, even if you find out what mechanics are in the different countries that you might be visiting, you can reach out to an iGarage, for example, and let them know maybe you'll be in town, make some type of connection with them, and get more on that. But Pelumi is booked and busy this morning, so we can't keep her for too much longer. But Pelumi, what has this taught you about yourself?
That the magic is in the doing. Stepping out of your comfort zone, there's so much reward in it. People have really tapped into my story to be inspired to do the things that they've once feared doing. So for me personally, it's been just exciting to seek new adventure and to really convince myself that I can do anything. You can do anything. Let's wrap up quickly with Kosi as well, and then we'll finally put a bow on this interview with Pelumi. So, Kosi, iGarage, on the socials, I'm sure we can check you out, find you on there. Would you encourage a lot of people to get quite intimate with their vehicles, know their vehicles quite well? Because oftentimes we find ourselves in emergencies, especially us women, and we have no idea what to do. So some quick advice in a minute, and then we wrap up on this.
Yes, Helen, before I answer that question, I'm offering Pelumi a special car check. I want to personally check.
Amazing, Kosi, we're so grateful.
She continues with her vehicle, so she can just, after the program, we can get in touch. And
nice one. We'll connect both of you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, at her convenience when she wants to come to the garage, so that I will personally check her vehicle before she continues with the rest of the trip. Good. To your question, treat your vehicle as yourself, your own body. It's like you need to know your vehicle. Your mechanic needs to know your vehicle. At iGarage, our main aim is predictive and preventive maintenance. We don't like vehicles breaking down because repair costs are always higher than preventive costs. So our goal is to kind of help vehicle users prevent issues from happening. That is why we also have a technical training center. So when you want to know basic things about your vehicle, either as a vehicle owner or just to know your vehicle, so that you don't run into some of these things, you can just call us. We do have programs. We train you to basic survival tips, what to use, how to do when you are in a situation. So we are located at Adenta Frafra. You can just, even if you go on simple Google, the iGarage. You'll see
the
all our
iGarage.
contacts there.
Sure
then
thing.
you reach out to us. Thank you very much for having me on the
Thank
program.
you so much, Kosi Dagbe, and thank you for being so kind and offering Palumi your services. I know she's super grateful, and we're grateful that we could make this happen. Palumi, so that's sorted. Before you've definitely got your $500 worth now. Okay?
Absolutely.
I can
Thank you so
confidently
much.
say that. So glad to meet you. So honored to meet you. What you're doing is incredible. I'm not inspired to get in my car and drive from London to wherever. I'll drive from Accra to London just yet, but I'm inspired to put my money where my mouth is. You say it's all in the doing.
Exactly.
There's a lot of talk, but if you want to do it, just do it. Palumi, is there a big party in Lagos when you finally arrive?
The party is partying. So 7th of April is going to be happening in University of Lagos at noon. It's going to be a homecoming. That's what I'm calling
Fantastic.
it.
What a journey. What an inspiring woman. Palumi Nubi, traveling from London to Lagos. Wish you well in the rest of your travels. I'll find you before you leave the city. I'll help you make use of your $500.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful Monday. This is still 3FM Sunrise on 3FM 92.7.
Low key, all of them done they notice. I'm not joking.